What's good, everybody? I think we can all agree that it's basically a two-headed race at this point between AP and Jim Harbaugh, who's potentially be the next Raiders head coach. And so I want to take this opportunity to kind of jump on and go through my pros and cons. And at the end, really determine is AP really better than Jim Harbaugh, or should we sway a little bit in Jim Harbaugh's way? So I want to just jump on here, get your guys' feedback, engage with you guys like I always do, and I would appreciate any comments that you put down there. Before I do get to it, the winners of my giveaway, you guys are on the ticker down below. The one thing I will say is, Christina Gill, I appreciate you emailing me. I'm going to get your giveaway out to you, and I'll email you when it's out and when you should expect your giveaway to arrive. So I definitely appreciate you. But if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe, like this video, turn on the notifications. I'll be doing my next giveaway at 2,500 subscribers. So help me get there and ride this wave with me in this off season and going into the 2024 season. So I'm going to first do the pros when it comes to Antonio Pierce. Again, these are mine. So let me know in the comments down below if you agree or disagree. But first and foremost, obviously he emulates the Raider way. He's brought back the Raider way to the Allegiant Stadium, to this fan base. Not saying that Jim Harbaugh isn't, because Jim Harbaugh was a part of the Raiders well early in his career, but just what AP has brought to this team, to the stadium, to the fan base is undeniably the Raider way. And not sure how Jim Harbaugh would bring that same feeling back to this organization. So there's just that question there. But Antonio Pierce has definitely brought the Raider way back to the fan base in Allegiant Stadium. Now, a huge pro is he led this team to a successful second half of the season through the debacle that McDaniels put us in. And at the end of the day, he ended with a winning season. He was 5-4 as the Raiders head coach. So that is definitely a pro in my mind. And one of the things I want to say is, how did we feel after that Lions game? After that Lions game and prior to that Lions game, we really had no hope. My hope was definitely falling apart. And by that time, and I made a video after that Lions game basically saying, Mark Davis, you need to make a decision now. Why wait? Make a decision. And luckily he did. And so, I think that AP showing that he was able to really revive this team, revive the fan base, revive this culture after what McDaniels did, I think it's huge. Now, biggest thing is he's won championships as a player. Right? He's won Super Bowls as a player, so he understands what it takes to get there as a player. And one of the best things, and one of the things that I think we know about Antonio Pierce, is that he's a player's coach. He's a player's coach. He understands what the players' needs are, not only on the field, but off the field in their personal life. So I think that's absolutely huge. He's also extremely well respected as a player. I have not heard any negative things about him from people that have played against him or any of his teammates. So I do think that as a whole, he's well respected in the entire football community. And so that's obviously a pro. I'm not saying these are pros, to be clear, I'm not saying these are pros on top of Jim Harbaugh. I'm just saying these are pros when it comes to Antonio Pierce. Also, all the analysts around the league, whether it be Michael Strahan, whether it be, I saw J.J. Watt go on TV. He's not an analyst, but a player. But there's so many analysts and players around the league, ex-players, ex-high caliber players, really vouching for Antonio Pierce and saying he really does deserve this job. So that definitely is going into his favor. Obviously the entire roster has his back. I think that's unquestionable. The alumni has his back. I mean, after our last game, it almost looked like we made the playoffs, that last game. But it felt like to me it wasn't necessarily that we're celebrating a win because we beat the Broncos, but I think they're celebrating the fact that we can roll into next season with this momentum. That's what I got from that. I think that this locker room has Antonio Pierce's back, and they want him. They want him back as the Raiders head coach. And again, to what I just said, the alumni. You had Marcus Allen, you had Richard Seymour, you had Jim Otto, you had all these alumni, Charles Woodson, you had all these guys in that locker room celebrating like we need to keep this ball rolling. Like they are excited for what next year is going to bring. So that's a huge pro, in my opinion, for Antonio Pierce. And I do think that I live here locally in the Las Vegas area. I go to multiple games a year. I've been to 2 games this year. One thing that AP is going to do, he's going to bring that fan base back. I think silver and black will start to come more and more into this Allegiant Stadium if Antonio Pierce comes back. And so that would be huge for me. That's me being biased. That's my own personal desire, is that the fan base comes back to Allegiant Stadium, and I think Antonio Pierce will revive that and bring that back. I do agree that for those of you out there that are saying, winning cures all, and winning will bring the fans back, I believe that to an extent, but at the same time, the ticket prices are still high. I think the Las Vegas Raider fans, the old Oakland Raider fans, Los Angeles Raider fans, I think they're still in sticker shock a little bit. So, but that's a whole other story. But I do think AP, by bringing him back, will revive this fan base, and we'll see more silver and black in that stadium, and I'd be excited for that. And then the thing is, if you keep AP, you keep Patrick Graham. I think that's a given, and I think we need to keep Patrick Graham. That is my biggest need and want over the offseason, is keep Patrick Graham. And if you keep AP, I think it's almost guaranteed that you keep Patrick Graham. Now, the one thing is, and it's a big pro, is I said that AP has the backing of this locker room. And what you do is, if you go on with another head coach, if you go on to somebody else, you might divide this locker room. Now, they're all professionals, and they're going to continue to play, right? But I think you'll potentially divide this locker room. I think that's what happened after Rich Bisaccia was let go and Josh McDaniels was brought in. There were so many people in that locker room that wanted Rich Bisaccia that they almost had to get over that emotional tie to Bisaccia to really pour their hearts out for Josh McDaniels. And so now Josh McDaniels wasn't a good head coach. I think that he didn't do himself any favors, but you run that risk that if you let go of AP, you might lose the confidence or split the divide in this locker room for guys that wanted AP to come back. So that's kind of breaking down the majority of my pros. And let me know in the comments down below if you agree with that. Now let me get into the cons. Now, cons is, first and foremost, he only has 2 years of NFL coaching experience. As much as, and I dropped a video on the GMs, as much as I want to see one of our GMs have a lot of experience in that position, I'd like to see an experienced either head coach or an experienced coach in the NFL. And so that's definitely a con in my opinion, is that just he's got 2 years experience. 5 years ago, he was coaching high school football. So that is tough. Now, the one big thing we have to think about is if Antonio Pierce goes 0-4 or 1-3 to start the season, is this fan base going to give him leniency, the ability for him to learn? Are they going to be okay with a very slow start? Because one thing you have to remember is we're most likely going to be going into the season with a rookie quarterback. And if we are, not very many teams can come right away and just start winning right out the box with the rookie quarterback. So keep that in mind. If we have a slow start, is this fan base going to be okay with a slow start and AP learning the process as being a head coach? Now, also, if we have a slow start, our free agents going to want to come this way. That's the one thing we have to think about is, our free agents, high caliber free agents, are they going to want to come to a organization that has a brand new head coach that's never done it before? If we're struggling a little bit in the beginning, do they want to come over? Are we going to be an attractive place for free agents, high caliber free agents, to come on over and join the Las Vegas Raiders? That's one thing to think about. Now, also is, what kind of offensive coordinator can Antonio Pierce really bring in? What good offensive coordinator? My thing is that he might need to bring somebody from the college ranks, which I believe that to be true. But what offensive coordinator, good offensive coordinator, because that's what we need, would be willing to coach under a guy that's never done it before, has only been in the NFL for 2 years? I don't really answer that. I'm asking that question, but it's a valid question, is what good offensive coordinator would come coach under Antonio Pierce? And here, we don't know how good Antonio Pierce is at evaluating coaches. So what if he brings in the wrong guy? We got to be willing to give Antonio Pierce some grace if we want him as the next head coach, and not expect, a 3, 4, 5 win season or winning streak to start the season. We just can't expect that. Let's see. Now, one thing is everybody, all I hear on social media, I hear in the comments is they think that Antonio Pierce is the reason why our defense is good. And that's, in my opinion, I don't think that's the case. Did he create a spark? I think so. I also think a spark was created when Josh McDaniels was fired. I think this entire locker room woke up when Josh McDaniels was fired. But is it more AP or is it more Patrick Graham? That's the biggest question. Is we know that AP is a leader of men, but a lot of people want Antonio Pierce because the defense is so good. But is it really Antonio Pierce that created it? Because I did a video back in week 2, I believe, after the Steelers, that I saw potential in this defense. I saw what this defense could become. There's a good chance that it is all Patrick Graham. 97% Patrick Graham. Antonio Pierce did create a spark. I think the firing of Josh McDaniels created a spark too. So we got to be careful with who's responsible for really bringing up this defense. And the other thing is, if Patrick Graham leaves, he could get a head coaching job this year. We don't know in the offseason. He could be gone next year. He could have another great year of developing a top 10 defense and he's gone. Now what do we do? If it truly was Patrick Graham and he's gone, now we're relying on Antonio Pierce to really revamp the whole defensive side of the ball. Are we confident that he can do it? And then there's just the unknown of what Antonio Pierce truly brings as a head coach when it comes to developing a coaching staff. We don't know. The majority of all this coaching staff was the work of Josh McDaniels. So one thing Josh McDaniels did pretty good is he brought in some decent guys, especially on the defensive side. He brought in Patrick Graham. He brought in Antonio Pierce. He brought in Carmen Brasillo. He caught in Rob Ryan. He brought in those guys. So can Antonio Pierce develop a good coaching staff, a winning coaching staff? That's just unknown. And how good is he at evaluating talent? Now, he did bring in Jack Jones. That's a great starting point. But at the end of the day, we don't know. We really don't know how good he is at evaluating talent, not only through the draft, but also through free agency. So, yes, got a big little glimmer of what he can do with Jack Jones, but that's just the unknown. So that kind of breaks down my pros and cons, guys. Let me know in the comments down below. Are there any more cons that you see out of Antonio Pierce? And at the end of the day, who do you want as the next Raiders head coach? Do you want Antonio Pierce or do you want Jim Harbaugh? So I appreciate you guys sticking with me. Again, like, subscribe, turn on those notifications. I'll be doing another giveaway at 2,500 subscribers, so ride that wave with me. And I'll be doing my next video on Jim Harbaugh, pros and cons, so look out for that. So appreciate you guys. I'll see you guys on the next video. I'm out.